staff, creating the feeling that the boy was unloved, that the whole family was watching and judging his every action. When those events occurred, no one could have guessed that one day they would all be uncovered. At the time, Camilla only thought she was consolidating.
By the truth, she had to find that servant the central figure in the matter. He had resigned many years ago and was now living reclusively in a quiet suburb.
Catherine did not act hastily. She used indirect channels, relying on trustworthy assistants as intermediaries. In the early days, every effort her power. She never imagined that her actions would become her greatest haunting regret, and that one day, Catherine, the strong mother, would rise to demand justice for her son.
After gathering the initial pieces from records and testimonies, Catherine intensified her investigation. She knew that to clarify,
she believed those pressures were helping George become more obedient, less overly confident, and more dependent on his parents. Her deliberate silence was the spark that convinced the servant he was permitted to continue. He went further, isolating George from certain close staff
of the future ahead. Those were not empty words. She quickly took action.
Camilla selected a loyal male servant who had served her for many years and assigned him a special task. During that period, George frequently visited the boy understands his position, Camilla instructed. But power granted too easily often leads to abuse. The servant quickly realized that Camilla did not object to harsh measures. Whenever he reported having handled one of George's mischievous behaviors, she would remain silent or nod slightly, a silence interpreted as consent. From then on, the servant began to exceed his assigned palace. The servant was ordered to shadow George, report every small behavior, and remind the boy whenever necessary. Initially, the task seemed limited to supervision and daily routine control. Make sure enough to suffocate. William sat beside his wife, his face stern. Catherine stood up, her voice clear but full of emotion. Today, we are here not to condemn anyone, but to face the truth. George, our son, once fell victim to unacceptable behavior. After many months of tense and stressful investigation, Catherine finally completed the comprehensive dossier. In her private office, she neatly arranged everything, the former servant's testimony, and exposed the dark schemes of the past. The internal meeting she convened would be a crucial turning point. The royal atmosphere at that moment was stifling and full of tension. Everyone sensed that a major conflict was about to erupt. Incomplete personnel records, memoranda, and confirmations from many witnesses. Every detail matched logically and irrefutably. The important internal meeting was convened. The atmosphere in the conference room was heavy, tense, and conversations with trusted aides. Camilla had once said in a voice full of irritation, "The boy needs to be disciplined. He must learn stricter discipline if he is to be worthy." To 2017, when Prince George was still a toddler, with a naive smile and large, curious round eyes. At that time, Camilla was in the most difficult period since officially entering the royal family. Although she had become queen, she clearly felt invisible pressure from many sides. The public's and the household's favorable attention received increasing attention. This made Camilla extremely uncomfortable. She began to see the boy's radiant presence as a hidden threat to her own position. In private, always poured toward William, Catherine, and especially their grandchildren, the fresh symbols and future of the monarchy. George, with his natural charm and approachable image to the people, not distinguish between real instructions from Camilla and the servant's own actions. Every time George happily ran and jumped or made a small childish mistake, the servant would appear, pull him into a hidden corner, and say coldly, "You must not do that." Queen limits. He started using subtle, threatening words to exert psychological pressure on the boy. Queen Camilla is displeased with children who cry easily. "If you tell your parents, everyone in the family will be disappointed in you," he would often whisper in George's ear when no one was around. Those repeated sentences became an invisible weapon, causing George, who was only 2 to 4 years old, to fall into a state of constant confusion and fear.
The boy could. Camilla is watching. Gradually, George became withdrawn, smiled less, and avoided places that had once been his favorite play areas.
A few other palace staff noticed the abnormality. They reported the servant's behavior to superiors. But Camilla did not intervene,
her voice full of determination. "William, I met the former servant. Everything matches. Camilla is truly involved. We cannot stop now." William was silent for a few seconds before replying, "Continue. But be careful. If she finds out, things will get more complicated." Catherine nodded, though William could not see. She understood the risks clearly, but maternal love and a sense of justice drove her more powerfully than ever. The investigation entered a more dangerous phase as Camilla's shadow began to emerge.
Is digging deep into everything. Many former staff have been approached by her. We must do something.
Camilla received the report on a quiet morning. Her face immediately darkened. She understood better than anyone that if the events of years past were exposed, her reputation and position in the royal family would suffer clearly through the mists of the past.
News of Catherine's quiet investigation quickly reached the former servant's ears. Within just 48 hours of the meeting, he panicked and urgently contacted Camilla's office. His voice trembled over the phone. "Your Majesty, Princess Catherine,"
but threatening a child that his whole family would abandon him. "Is that an order you made George live in fear for many months?" The servant remained silent for a long time. He admitted to having gone somewhat overboard, but insisted all actions were within permitted bounds. Catherine did.
Another lady-in-waiting confirmed I once saw George sobbing after being alone with him. When I asked, the boy just shook his head and said nothing. Afterward, he told me not to interfere.
These individuals state more former employees. One by one, they recounted memories they had previously thought unimportant. An old butler clearly remembered George often avoided him. Every time that servant appeared, the boy would immediately shrink into a corner or run toward others. At the time, we thought it was shyness, but thinking back now, did not press further. She knew pushing too hard would make him shut the door completely. The meeting ended with limited information, but enough for her to confirm she was on the right track. Undeterred, Catherine expanded the scope of verification. She secretly contacted
changes within the monarchy. A costly lesson that Camilla and the entire British royal family must remember forever. If the accusations are true, do you think Camilla should be held responsible for what George endured, or does the fault lie entirely with the servant who exceeded the limits assigned to him? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy.
Another employee recounted that the servant frequently received private instructions from Camilla's office. Each account strengthened Catherine's conviction. Although there was no clear evidence like videos or direct documents pointing to Camilla, all the details.
I remember once seeing him enter the grandchildren's private area without reporting. Only later did I learn he was an agent for one of Queen Camilla's close aides.
The confirmation was vague, but carried weight.
Took place over private phones or discreet meetings in safe locations. One former employee, sounding somewhat hesitant, confirmed that servant. He always had quite special freedom of movement.
Details fit together logically. She began to paint a picture. A servant granted excessive power tolerated with Camilla's shadow behind him. The woman who always wanted to assert her position.
He had no direct physical evidence, such as videos or recordings. But the details he described matched terrifyingly with what William and Catherine had observed in their son. Back then, George would sometimes become unusually quiet, wake up in the middle of the night with a panicked look, or avoid certain areas of the palace without explanation. At the time, William and Catherine thought it was just a normal phase of child development. Now, everything appeared far clearer. William listened, his face gradually darkening. He gripped Catherine's hand tightly, his voice low with suppressed anger. "If what you say is true, We cannot let this stand.
Isn't like children who cry easily, he would say in a cold voice. Every sentence invoked Camilla's name like a sharp weapon, making the small boy believe everything was permitted and directed from above.
The former servant admitted, but the power and influence of a queen were enough to create pressure. Moreover, large support payments were offered as a subtle form of persuasion.
This is an internal royal family matter and should not be made public, Camilla said to one former employee in a cold, low voice. You have served for many years. I trust you understand that. Others received promises of financial support or better positions for their children and grandchildren if they stayed silent. A heavy blow. Concern quickly turned into decisive action. Within days, Camilla secretly arranged private meetings with key witnesses Catherine had contacted. The meetings occurred in discreet locations far from the center. She did not threaten directly. The effect was swift and clear. Many witnesses Catherine had arranged to meet suddenly changed their attitudes. They refused to attend the internal meeting Catherine had prepared, citing excuses from health issues to sudden work commitment.
Queen's order, and no one was to interfere. I was afraid of losing my job, afraid of being expelled from the royal household, so I stayed silent. Looking back now, I regret it deeply.
William nodded, struggling to stay calm. He knew that if this news leaked before they had solid evidence, the royal family would face a crisis. But as a father, he could not ignore it. We will investigate thoroughly. You have been very courageous to come forward at this time. When the meeting ended, Catherine and William returned to their private quarters. A heavy atmosphere enveloped them.
The former servant's initial testimony was like a slow-burning bomb. It not only shook the family's trust, but also opened the door to darker secrets no one had anticipated. Catherine knew the road ahead would be full of obstacles, but she was ready to face them. For George, for the future of the entire family. After the fateful meeting with the former servant, William and Catherine returned with heavy unease. She presented each piece of evidence clearly. The male servant was the direct perpetrator he had threatened, and psychologically pressured George with cold words, making the boy live in fear for many months. But more importantly, all those actions occurred with Camilla's tolerance. The initial incident, her recent efforts to intervene and bribe witnesses, clearly revealed an intent to cover up. Catherine looked her straight in the eyes, her voice resolute. Tolerance is also a crime. Your deliberate pressure on witnesses further proves how seriously you knew the matter was. The atmosphere in the meeting, instructions from her silence upon receiving reports, and especially the recent efforts to cover up by bribing and pressuring witnesses, all clearly delineated responsibility.
Camilla sat opposite, maintaining a calm expression, but with clenched hands. When it was her turn to speak, she denied, I never ordered any mistreatment of George. I only wanted the boy to be trained in discipline, to be worthy of his future role. Whatever the servant did was his own initiative.
However, Camilla could not deny two important points. First, she had known about the servant's excessive behavior, but took no action to stop it. Second,
with rage. She remembered the nights when George would cling tightly to her, his small hands gripping her dress without explanation. At the time, she thought he was just shy. Now she understood it might have been genuine fear.
The former servant continued, his voice growing more emotional. And George is our son. No one is allowed to hurt him like that.
Catherine did not speak immediately. She sat up straight, her eyes blazing with determination. As a mother, she felt the pain like a knife cutting through her heart. Imagining her son, the boy beloved by the entire nation, for his radiant smile having to endure threats and invisible pressures from an adult in their own home, made her tremble.
I witnessed him approaching George twice. The first time, George was playing with toys when he was pulled into a corner of the room. He whispered something that made the boy sob. I wanted to intervene, but he immediately said it was the...
It reveals deep cracks in the royal family jealousy over power, personal schemes, and the price innocent children must pay. Catherine proved that maternal love is stronger than any conspiracy. Although the royal family tried to cover it up, the truth still shone through. and the lessons of responsibility and justice remain.
Perhaps, after all this, is the beginning of bigger she became quieter before the public, and criticism from public opinion continued unabated. For William and Catherine's family, this was a difficult time, but also one when they bonded more than ever. George, now older, was told part of the truth by his parents.
This story does not end merely with exposing past bullying. It became a symbol of the power of familial bonds in the royal family.
As for Camilla, she faced a major loss of reputation. Although not criminally prosecuted, her position and credibility were severely shaken.
In the royal family, those nights, Catherine slept less. She could not stop thinking about her son. Imagining little George facing fear alone made her heart ache. "You were so strong, my son," she told herself. But at the same time, uncontrollable anger surged. How could an adult use power to pressure an innocent child? After nearly 2 weeks of quiet investigation, Catherine had gathered enough initial pieces. She called William, her voice resolute over the private line. Ambition had turned into belief. And that belief drove her toward the truth, no matter the dangers and pressures from within the royal family. As a mother, she would not let anyone hurt her son without paying the price.
Going back in time to 2015,
William, what the former servant said is not fabricated. "I found many matching points. The servant resigned, suddenly records are missing, and he was protected from Camilla's side. We need to dig deeper." Catherine smiled coldly. She knew this war was only beginning.
William and Catherine.
The meeting took place in a discreet room where dim golden light illuminated their serious faces. The middle-aged man sat opposite them, hands clenched tightly, his voice low but filled with emotion. "Your Highness, I have remained silent for far too..."
Disgruntled former employee, or did a secret powerful enough to shake the entire royal family truly exist 10 years ago? In early 2026, as light snow still fell outside the palace windows, an unexpected letter changed everything. The letter was sent privately to Prince William's office with shaky handwritten words on an old envelope. The sender was a former servant who had left service many years earlier. He demanded no money, no fame, only a private meeting with both.
Decided to quietly investigate. The deeper she dug, the more she uncovered inexplicable gaps in personnel records and sudden changes among witnesses.
Was this merely a false accusation from a Some had received gifts, others had work records linked to her close aides.
"She is covering it up," Catherine said to William in a private exchange, her voice filled with fury. "Do they think money and power can buy the truth? George has suffered enough." One even cut off contact completely.
Catherine noticed the anomaly immediately. This simultaneous and abrupt change could not be coincidental. She sat analyzing all the files, comparing old and new statements. The results fueled her greater anger. All the witnesses who changed had direct or indirect ties to Camilla's office.
William also sensed the seriousness. He worried for his wife, but fully supported her. "Call an emergency internal meeting. We cannot let them continue pressuring everyone." Catherine acted immediately. She decided to organize an important
for her reputation, but also because the image of a strict but fair grandmother she had always cultivated was shaking violently. Catherine stood before her desk, gazing out the window with determined eyes. She knew a direct confrontation was approaching.
Internal meeting with trusted royal family members and senior management staff. The atmosphere in the palace became tense as a taut string. Many sensed the instability, but no one dared speak openly.
Meanwhile, Camilla continued her behind-the-scenes maneuvering. She understood that if Catherine succeeded in gathering enough evidence, everything would spiral out of control. The Queen felt genuine anxiety. Not only Camilla's cover-up actions only proved the truth she sought was real. There was no turning back. As a mother, Catherine was ready to face everything to protect her son.
Do everything.
From the next day, Catherine began acting in secret. Using her position as the future queen, She accessed the personnel record storage system without drawing attention. In the following days in her private office, she pored over old documents from 2015. Anyone know until we have certain results? Catherine nodded. In her eyes at that moment was not only a mother's worry, but also a burning flame of determination. She knew the path ahead was fraught with difficulties, but for George, she was willing to. William understood better than anyone that if he investigated personally, rumors would spread like wildfire within the royal household. He looked at his wife, his voice low but trusting Catherine. I'm entrusting this verification to you. We cannot let in to 2017. The silence was broken only by the sound of turning pages and her heavy breathing. Gradually, the pieces began to fall into place. The accused male servant, a man once trusted by Camilla, had suddenly resigned just months back of notes. The anger in her heart rose higher. She thought of George, her beloved son, who had endured fear alone in the royal palace itself. Unforgivable, she whispered. She called Williams, though small, when pieced together, formed a tightly logical chain. George's avoidance of contact, unexplained crying episodes, and sudden personality changes all matched the period when the